Mark and Anna's front door was rarely used. Instead, they came and went by the side entrance into the garage or this was the formal living room, kept spotless in the least used room in the house was located at the end of the doorway on the left, connecting 3 bedrooms. The formal living area, which included a spacious master suite and a guest bathroom, was dark due to its massive curtains. Closed there was a white camel, and the room had a back couch at the back wall, and huge wingback chairs on either side, all facing an oak coffee table. None of this was significant until that day. Later that morning, Mark sat in the wingback chair facing away from the archway between the foyer and he had sat in the living room many times when his wife was away, thinking about his life and playing out possibilities. Attempting to quantify his possible losses if he opted to divorce his unpleasant marriage, his buddies would consider whether, if they chose to stay in the house, they would have to pay for it themselves, and he would most likely have to pay alimony for you. Years and half of his net worth would disappear in a flash, along with the legal bills, and he'd still have to deal with Anna. She was quite vengeful. While he was thinking about this, he heard the side door open and knew that she was. When he arrived home from grocery shopping, he should have gotten up and pretended to be in their bedroom in case wife caught him. In the living room, there would be another dispute, which was nothing new in this house. Anna was always beginning them, typically about little issues or nothing at all. Mark knew she did it to keep him on his toes, and she could go on about it for weeks. Mark always managed to smooth things over in the smallest of details, but he thought life was too much of a problem. It was best to settle a fight as quickly as possible than to have ongoing friction. The problem was that it was. After 15 years of marriage, he saw no way out other than death or divorce. He persisted in trying to make things better, largely for his own sanity these days, rather of making things pleasant for his wife. Mark heard the freezer door close and knew she had put away the frozen food. She'd send him out to grab the remainder of the goods, and a few minutes later, she'd do it again. Ordered him around, and he was expected to obey her and put up with her criticism while he did what she requested. And I want the cereal in the other cabinet this time, she said, trying to avoid him for as long as possible. He stayed where he was. Waiting for her to call his name or whistle for him was nearly too much for him to handle these days. Instead of her voice, he heard light footfall as she reached the entryway. If he had looked, he would have seen. He waited for her to halt on the tiled floor and walked down the corridor to ensure she was alone. Anna softly thought, I should have phoned him in the car before I came home. It's hard to drive, eh? And chat, though. Oh. Well, I'm secure here, and Mark is probably out back working on the shed like a good little husband. He heard the ping of her cell phone as she dialed a number. She was now in the doorway, only 5 feet away from the rear of the. Michael can sit in the chair where he sat. Hey, Michael. Why is she calling him now? Excellent for Friday afternoon. I'll phone him at work after 1. He should be back from lunch by then, and if he's at his desk, we'll be okay for a few hours. I'll unlock the rear gate as usual and see you at 2. She was silent as the other party said, Course, Michael. You can place the thing anywhere you want. I adore your huge old tool. I'm going to go find out where my child is now. See you Friday. He heard the flip-clip phone snap shut. Her footsteps trailing away, she whistled and shouted across the carpet to the sliding glass door. She hadn't heard his. This wasn't Mark's first experience in a tight circumstance. He'd learned to remain cool unless he was detected and actively under attack. He'd also learned to use his expertise to take a deep breath and count to 10. Stay calm and in control. Mark got up and headed into the den. I'm in the restroom. I need to go to the hardware store and get parts for the shed, he muttered as he crossed the room towards the kitchen and the side entrance, astounded that he'd been able to. He was also surprised that he didn't have his hands around her throat at the time he spoke those things. Turned to look as he strode by her and spotted the redness in his eyes. You should wear a hat to protect your skin from. The sun will start peeling off in a few days if you don't bring in groceries before you leave away. Be gone all day. She placed her phone in her purse on the kitchen counter and went out the back door to examine Mark's work on the shed. She was ready to give him a hard time. When he returned, Anna was all over him, set of marching instructions, and an implied or outright critique as she stepped into the backyard. Mark snatched her phone from her purse and looked up the last number dialed. He quickly memorized it and put her phone back in her handbag. Then Mark He carried in the goods, put them away, and drove out in his small pickup truck. He did not go to the hardware store. He stopped in a nearby park a few blocks away for the first 15 minutes and kept going over the short chat. He merely overheard and made care to memorize every word, so he could be sure he'd get it right. There was no uncertainty. What that indicated, with no room for error, was that his wife was having an affair in his house, most likely in his bed while he was at work. He was furious knowing that he was supporting her infidelity. Who was the guy she? Michael was not her true father, because the area code was local and her parents resided 1,000 miles away. During their marriage, Vermont called Mark Daddy when they were having sex, which she had ceased doing. Something. A long time ago, but he recalled since it had seemed a little unusual, and he had initially believed that maybe she was attempting to tell him she wanted children and that he should be the father, but she seemed relieved when they chose not to. Having children a few years into the marriage, she was obviously a daddy's girl, but then he began considering, pondering practical things to figure out what his best line of action was. She would let her lover in via the. On Friday, he would be walking down the alley, so he could ambush him there. But what would he do? With his unfaithful wife, if her lover was walking his car, it had to be somewhere nearby and hit him. Her lover would probably leave his car right here in the park. Who is this guy, and how could he find out? The obvious thing would be to call the number he received from her cell phone, or have someone else call it as if by mistake and try to persuade him to say who he was. A lady would most likely acquire that information. Who did he know that would make the call, and who else might know about this? The solution was simple. His best friend was Lisa. If Lisa didn't know about it, he didn't expect anyone else would either. Perhaps Anna's sister might know, but that seemed improbable ever since she had been ostracized by the rest of the family for her nasty divorce, and she and Anna had not been close. Could he ask? Lisa, he'd known her for as long as Anna had, and Lisa had always been his buddy, but sometimes women are more. Lisa married John, who was 10 years her senior. They appear to be the most devoted couple in the world. Mark assumed Lisa would tell John almost. What would she tell him about Anna? He counted John as a friend, but they weren't close. John was an upstanding man. Mark thought he would have notified him if he had heard of something like this. So he decided to try John, which meant drive to the golf course where John was semi-retired and contributed time on Saturdays as a type of goodwill ambassador for the course in exchange for a free game of golf during the week when the course was not full at the time. Although he considered his approach very carefully, he couldn't just blurt it out. What if the word got back to Lisa? Mark was riding in a golf cart when Anna told him he needed to be cool and collected. A confident talk with him as he proceeded to check on conditions at the 7th hole. Would you feel obligated to keep it hidden, or would you share it with someone? Lisa J. gave him an unusual. I presume you're asking me to keep a secret from Lisa. If you and Lisa always discuss what you hear from other people, even if you hear it in private, it's just I'll keep this private. But if Lisa asks, I won't lie to her. I can maintain a secret, but I will not lie to my wife or a buddy. John obviously knew something, and Mark felt that he wanted to tell him. John, do you know anything about an affair my wife may be having? May have had in the past. It came flooding out of John like it was at the Jackson party last New Year's. Just ready to do the fireworks display, and everyone was outside. Lisa had felt ill from the champagne, you know. She rarely drinks. She went upstairs to the bathroom. On the landing, she heard someone trying the doorknob. Was getting sick in the toilet. When she washed up and left the bathroom, she heard sounds coming from down the hall. She was afraid that someone else might be ill, so she walked down and looked. Anna was cornered at the end of the hallway by a big guy, and let's just say he had her legs against the wall, wrapped around his waist. Anna saw Lisa standing there and gave her a smile and a small wave like get out of here. Lisa told me about it on the way home. She and Anna are old friends, and she had wanted to talk to Anna before. We decided what to do, and I said we should tell you right away. In the end, she spoke with your wife, who informed her that had been a one-time thing due to alcohol, a spat with you, and some aggressive moves from the guy's name. Lisa knows about Michael Brown. He's a real bully who married money. Lisa asked me to keep it quiet because she is a lawyer, and we don't want to ruin your marriage over a single incident. But I told her that if you ever asked me about it directly, I'd tell you. I just wanted to let you know about it. Lisa recently mentioned that she had a run-in with a guy named Michael Brown, who apparently is He has a reputation for being a bully. He is married to a lawyer, and he has made a. Lisa asked me to keep it quiet because she didn't want to ruin your marriage over a single thing. Incident, however, I told her that if you ever asked me about it directly, I'd be honest. With you, I wouldn't lie to you. It's been on my mind for the past 4 months. I'm relieved it's out, but I'm sorry for you. Anna lied to Lisa. It's not over. She's still seeing this guy. Or maybe it's someone else by now. I heard her talking to him on the phone an hour ago. If I'd known, I would have come to you. I'm sorry. Mark, let's go back to my place. Let's go see Lisa and see what she knows maybe. She knows something we don't. They left the golf course in their own vehicles and went to Lisa and John's house, he told his wife, and she started crying. She really hoped things would work out for Mark and Anna. She'd do anything to help if she could. When she heard that the affair was still going on, she seemed different. She felt a bit betrayed by Anna. She had been assured that the affair was finished and had based her actions on that. Lisa, there's one thing you might do for me. I checked her phone and I have the number she called. Would you call him and pretend it's a wrong number? Try to get his name. I want to make sure who she's seeing now. Lisa worked at home as an editor. She had a PhD in English literature and a background in theater. Using her best acting technique and social engineering skills, she planned to call S. He would use her flawless English accent, which never failed to impress. She dialed the number with the phone set on speaker. Hi, this is Michael Brown. She was pleased to hear that even though her whole scenario had fallen apart, the information was clear. Anna hadn't ended things with Brown. They'd spoken for a while about what to do next. Mark was determined to catch them in the act, and he wanted to be ready for their next encounter on Friday. He wanted to have more ammunition. He needed to be prepared with as many facts as he could when he confronted his wife. That way he could catch her not only in infidelity, but in all of her lies that she would undoubtedly try to cover up. He couldn't really hire a detective to follow her around. He wouldn't know who to call, and she might not even see or talk to Brown before Friday. Also, he expected a lot of expenses with a divorce and everything. I need to find out what she's up to. They were quiet for a minute, thinking, what if there's a mole? Lisa asked, what if someone close to her tells her best friend everything? You do that. Never underestimate a woman who's angry. I've had it with her and how she's treated us. I think I can. They came up with a plan to get her to give it up to me for the next hour. They arranged for her to call Anna, saying she needed help. Desperately, they met up for coffee on Sunday morning. John modified an old purse. Lisa had to hold a video camera. Lisa put it on the table to record everything by noon on Sunday. They should know there's a lot more, and I really need to talk to you as soon as possible. Can you meet me for coffee in the morning? I'm in a tricky situation, and you're the only person I know who has the experience to help me. I trust you. What's up, Lisa? Are you sick? Is John okay? No, it's not that. Anna, remember the party last New Year's Eve? I have a situation kind of like that. I get it. I may be able to help you with. How about tea? Not that new coffee place at the mall. Let's pick us a nice quiet spot to talk. I'll see you there. Lisa was smiling to herself. It's about time her old friend came out of her shell. She's been with that old bugger of a husband for years, and she could do a lot better. She was still cute, and it would be great to have someone to share stories with, like she used to do with her sister. Would be happy to help her friend move on from some of her old ideas. Over time, she could teach Lisa everything her sister, and more importantly, her Michael, had taught her about life. Lisa went to the coffee shop and picked a table outside under an awning. She carefully put her purse on the table and tried out the camera inside. She moved 2 chairs away from the table so that Anna had only one place to sit, so she made sure the angle was right and did some audio testing. The air was calm, so there shouldn't be any wind noise. She set it up so that she only had to reach in and click one button to begin recording. The 32 gigabytes card could hold lots of video. John had cleverly arranged the camera and the purse with Velcro straps to hold it firmly in place. He hid the lens and microphone holes so they looked like part of the pattern on the black purse. When Anna arrived, she said, Anna, can you get us some coffee? I'll hold this place. This is the most private spot. I'll be right back. Lisa pressed the button. When Anna came out of the shop with the drinks, she quickly checked to make sure she was recording the preliminaries out of the way. Lisa launched into her story. Anna, there's this guy who wants me. I don't know what to do. He's so cute. It's been so long since John made love to me. John trusts me completely. I've never cheated on him, but I'm so tempted now. I'm asking you because I want to find out what you feel like after the New Year's party. I'm going to regret this. If you do it, you'll regret it. Come on, girl, you can do it. Honestly, I don't understand why you haven't done this before. John's nice, but he's way over the hill. You're still young and cute. I've always admired how you look, but I've never understood why you waste your time with Jen. You don't have any regrets. It sounds like you really have it together. Was that party Just a one-time thing. Time is of the essence, my dear. I'll be frank with you. I had to tell you that back then, or you might have let the cat out of the bag now that you're in a similar situation. We can share all this stuff. In fact, we'll be having some real hot talks, Anna. Tell me all about it. I'm so excited by this that I'm thinking about doing it myself. Where did it all start with you? And Michael, are you too? You know, you should see the look in your eyes. If you're not wet right now, I bet you will. Be in a few minutes, okay? Here's the story with Michael. We actually met 2 months before that at the Jackson Halloween party. I was wearing that leopard outfit. Remember, Michael kept eyeing me for the first hour or so, and I eyed him right back when his wife was helping with the trick, or there were people at the front door, and Mark was by the fire at the back. Michael came up beside me and whispered to meet him on the landing in 5 minutes. I just nodded at him. You know how big and crowded that party was, and the house is huge. It was easy to go back along the dark hallway, and then I climbed up to the landing. There wasn't anyone around since all the action was downstairs. When I got up to the landing, Michael kissed me hard and then led me into the bathroom and locked the door. I had my leotard off in 2 seconds and was sitting on his lap under the toilet. He's big and he gets what he wants, which I like about him. No, I love you, but no romantic stuff. He just screwed me senseless, and I came like crazy. We did it probably 20 times between then and New Year's. We were trying for a repeat of Halloween that night, but we were in the bathroom, so we had to go down the hallway. So it didn't end there, did it? You're still screwing him? Absolutely. In fact, I'll be screwing him next week in my own bed. Well, that is wild, but WH. At about Mark, don't you feel a little bad for him? Mark is a husband. You can't treat a husband like you do a lover. They serve totally different purposes. Mark is there to do what I want him to. Michael is there for good sex. I'm not saying I don't ever enjoy sex with Mark. After a good session with Michael, I like to have a bit of a cooling down session with Mark. Lisa, here's my take on Mark. He was a good choice of husband because I knew he'd always be a decent provider. He didn't insist on having kids, which is a bonus. He takes orders well, and I can control him like a TV remote. I just have to act like I'm jealous or throw him off balance with an argument now and then. I'll sniff him when he comes home. Sometimes like I'm looking for perfume. I do it to throw him off the scent and make him think I'll never cheat. When there's a movie on and the husband is cheated, I make a point of going on and on about how terrible I think that is and how I would never tolerate him cheating. Having Mark around is like having a little gay friend. He is so docile. I can treat him any way I want, and he just keeps coming back for more. He gets some free sex once in a while, and I get all the freedom I can stand. I can come and go as I please, but he has to run his every move by me first. I always know where he is, so I never have to worry about him catching me with a lover. Lisa, I don't even know if I can count them all. The first one was that first year we were married. He was barely legal. He was staring at me in the supermarket, and I just picked him up. He never even knew my real name. I bounced around hotel rooms with him for 6 months until he got too clingy. I did a bunch of one-night stands with young guys after that. I had a salesman friend who liked kinky stuff. He only came to town a few times a year, so it was a good thing I've kept Michael busy for longer than almost any of them. As I said, he's a hound with a whole lot of energy. He's married to a woman who is apparently clueless. She works, and he plays around. He can come see me almost any time, and I'm in control of that. So tell me about it. So, where did you meet him? Lisa gave me the lowdown on her new conquest. It was a great story, but the details don't matter. What I do know is that she nailed it. She had Anna believing every word and encouraging her to take full advantage. Anna, I just can't get over how in control you are. I don't know if I can treat John the way you do. Mark, in the animal kingdom, you have your dominant individuals, and then there's the rest of the team. They take orders from you. The drones exist to service the queen bee. I'm the alpha dog with Mark, and I wouldn't have it any other way. She gets her choice of mates, and I take that privilege because it's mine. He could have taken that spot in the pecking order if he'd had the guts to do so, but he didn't. Sometimes he puts up a fight, but he could never outlast me. He doesn't like to fight, but I don't mind. I have more stamina, and I make sure I all eyes when one way or another. I'm the alpha, and you can be the same easily. I can see any problem with you running the show. John could never replace you at his age. All you have to do is take on the role, and freedom will be yours. Make plans to start screwing Rod and enjoy every second of it. JN will still be there, and the worse you, the more you treat him, the more he'll fit into his natural submissive role. You could probably have sex with Rod right in front of John, and he'd just take it. That's just how things work in the real world. You've always been in control. You just haven't taken advantage of it. Yet one more thing though, what about STDs? Aren't you worried you'll catch something? Do you use condoms most of the time? I make the guy put a rubber on with Michael. It's different because he's so aggressive. It would be like trying to get one on a Stallion, he's clean, though once I got a little scared because it hurt to pee afterwards. The doc told me my vagina was just irritated from rough sex. She said to tell my husband to be more careful. I laughed my ass off at that one. There was one time I actually did get infected. It was awful. I had to take an injection and pills after that. I was more careful for a couple of weeks. How did you keep that from Mark? That was pretty masterful F of me. You know how he likes to play guitar? Yeah, and he's pretty good too anyway. He told me he was going to jam with his pal. I was expecting him to ask me to let him out of the house alone. So I just looked at him deadpan and said, if you really feel that's what you should be doing. I didn't tell him he could or couldn't. I gave him the choice, and he went to the jam. When he came back, I then had a 2-way argument with him while I took the antibiotics. If he hadn't gone, I could have turned that into an argument too. I never have to say no to sex with him because he won't initiate sex. If we're fighting, he can't just take me like a normal guy. We have to be all lovey. If he doesn't initiate, he's a bit of a wuss. The women had been talking for a long time, and Lisa was eager to get the recording back to JN and Mark, so she thanked Anna profusely and left for home. The conspirators sat there appalled as the video rolled. Lisa and Jan could hardly recognize Anna because she was never so hard on Mark when there were other people around. Mark was shocked, but not nearly as much as the couple. He had come to know that Anna was capable of almost anything. There's one thing we haven't talked about is Rebecca Brown. Lisa, do you know anything about her? I feel like I should let her know that he's with Anna, just in case she doesn't know, but if she does, she might be okay with it and might have moved on, which would ruin my plan. Sting, I've only spoken to her at a couple of parties she's put on. She seems happy enough on the surface, but I get the feeling she's unhappy in her marriage. I'm wondering if she's absolutely cowed by her husband. It'd be a great risk to let her in on what your plan. If she cooperates, she might be able to help us out. If she doesn't, we'll simply have this video. On the other hand, she might be able to help us get rid of him. Maybe I could help with her too. If she gets a call from you, she'll know you're chasing them. I could just talk to her in a general approach about his cheating and see if she'd be on your side, whereas you did a wonderful job with the video. So I trust you to handle Rebecca Brown. The sooner the better, because it will affect my plans. Thanks guys for your help. When I hear back about Mrs. Brown, you two are out of it. Don't want to involve you in what's coming, and it's best you don't know any more details. Mark, you won't do anything dumb, will you? Asked Lisa. You mean like the stupid stuff I've been doing for the past 15 years? No, I mean anything violent. Mark didn't answer her immediately. I'm going to handle this the only way I know how, and I'm asking you everyone to keep this totally discreet. If she calls, just don't answer. Whatever happens, it won't be your fault. That evening, named Rebecca Brown. Rebecca, this is Lisa Wilson. We've met at the Jackson gatherings a few times. Hey Lisa, I remember you. What do you need? Rebecca, can you communicate freely? Is your husband or anybody else around? I need to keep this conversation secret. Michael's out right now, and I'm sitting here reading. What can I do for you? Is it some legal concern? Okay, it could be. I know this is harsh, Rebecca, but I think you need to know Michael is cheating on you. It's not just with me, but with someone I know. I'm truly sorry, but you have a right to know. There was stillness on the other end of the line, and then Lisa heard sniffles and cries. It's been over a year now. He swore he was through with everything. I took him back based on promise, and I told him that if he did it again, I'd cut him loose. Lisa consoled her and moved on. Rebecca, what are you going to do about this? I know it's not my place to ask, but I might be able to help in some manner depending on your answer. Lisa, I respect your concern. I'll tell you this. He will never again sleep in my bed. I have a cast iron. I have a prenup, and I've threatened to use it if I divorce him. Especially is substantial evidence of adultery. He's cut off financially. He can't retain a job, and all he's good at is escorting to events and screwing women on the side. He would be living in the gutter till he finds some vulnerable woman to take him. I'll get you the evidence you need, but you have to promise me that you'll stay calm for a few days and not tell him. Are you up for something? I'll be calm as a cucumber, and he won't know until I get the evidence. Can I send someone to your office tomorrow to bring you some preliminary evidence? They set up a meeting with Lisa. I contacted Mark at work the next morning, and he was supposed to meet her in her office at 1 p.m. On Monday, Mark stepped into her office with a video camera, introduced himself, and shook hands before sitting down and said, Mrs. Brown, I'm the husband of the woman your man is sleeping with here. He showed her the video and pressed. The small screen was hardly visible, but the audio was great. When he saw the tears in her eyes, Mark stepped around the desk and put his hand on her shoulder. He said, I know how you must be feeling. This is new for me because I've only recently learned of my wife's behavior, but you've known what Michael is like for quite some time. I'm intending something and I'm asking you if you want to be a part of it. It will happen regardless, so if you don't want to, yeah, that's okay. I wouldn't feel right if I didn't offer, though Mark has been intimidating me for years. I've taken it over and over, and I've been physically scared of him many times, but I'm done with that. I wanted to change the tables. I want him to suffer immediately, Mark. What are you planning? Does it entail? I'm not planning to kill anyone, but I anticipate to have to whip your cheating husband's ass. Is it a problem for you, Mark? I'm 55, and he's 62. I've never been able to match him, and I don't mean to offend you, but I'm not convinced you can take him in a fair battle. It won't be a fair fight. Take him right to the cleaner. She grinned a bit and nodded. I'm in. She said, just one thing, Mark, leave a little bit. Mark wasn't in the mood for work after his meeting with Rebecca Brown, and he was still unhappy about what Anna had stated about him in the video, and he saw some truth in it, but he viewed things differently. He despised battling with Anna, but he didn't perceive his conciliatory nature as a weakness. He knew she thought he was a sissy, but he reprimanded himself for that. Knew that in a marriage, you have to make an attempt to make things better, and Anna obviously didn't, which stung the most. Her characterization of him as her little homosexual friend gay, he was not. She would see him in all his macho greatness on Friday. Perhaps he could give her a taste of it before Friday to see how she would react. When confronted with a husband who would not take no for an answer, would it make her want him more? Not that he would ever take her back at this point. The trust was completely gone, which was the bedrock of any relationship. Maybe it will give her something to consider on those long nights she'd be confronting alone on Tuesday and Wednesday, when there wasn't much work being done in Mark's office. He spent a lot of time mulling over scenarios. He understood that there were too many uncertainties. Quip about the best-made plans. He had to play it by ear on Friday afternoon, so he spent a few hours in the company gym getting. He had been working on his flexibility and strength in preparation for Friday. It was easy to execute the routines while envisioning what was going to happen. Things were stressful at home, but normally, Anna would have been on his case, but his behavior had been so of line that she wanted to wait and see if this was simply an aberration. She needed to discover out what was wrong and get Mark back under her thumb where he belonged. She found herself looking forward to Friday even more, perhaps even a wonderful sex session. Tuesday night, while Anna was showering, Mark went through his dresser drawers seeking for something his. Mark had played with it as a child, and when he entered the army, it was his gift from his grandfather. His father and grandpa had both served in the service, and Mark's grandfather had battled the Nazis in France after Normandy, having taken a set of brass knuckles from a German body as a war memento. Mark stared at it resting in his fingers. It was a piece of equipment constructed of steel, not brass, and most likely unlawful to own. His grandfather had cautioned him to be careful with it, but that it might come in handy eventually. That day had almost arrived. This was war. Anna and her lover had not played fair, and neither would Mark. He forced himself to have a big breakfast at work on Friday morning. He wouldn't be eating lunch, but he hoped his competitor would that slow him down. He generally walked the floor of his office while going over. He had a few things in the guest room that he hoped he might use, but it would depend on if Anna was waiting for her beloved in the backyard or simply opening the gate and heading back inside. He could adapt. He was thinking about the pair of knuckles on his desk. He paced and thought some more, fueling his repressed rage. He changed into jeans and shirt and a robust pair of running shoes. He checked his pocket, cell phone, keys, knuckles, and billfold before leaving. He called Anna from his work phone so she could check the number and know he was actually there. Work that would stop her from phoning him. He was calm and not at all threatening on the phone. He told her he had meetings all afternoon and wouldn't be near his phone, and his mobile phone would also be switched off. He stated he would be an hour or so late arriving home. Anna regarded it as a good sign that he was drifting back to his normal behavior since he had called to check in, so she relaxed a little. Maybe she'd even offer Mark a small gift with some cosmetics. Later this evening, she began to prepare to meet her beloved. It took the two of them 20 minutes to drive to the park. Rebecca drove him off, and he sprinted down the street to his house where he slid inside He hid behind a Oria bush in the backyard and waited via the side gate at the end of the house, away from the garage. At 1:45, Anna arrived in the backyard, nervously checking the clock on his phone, which was muted. Dressed in a string bikini, She went to the back gate, unlocked it, and peeked down the lane but saw nothing. Interesting. She locked the gate and strolled to a lounge chair under the large pecan tree. This was Mark's signal. He left the side gate shut and crept back through the gap and around to the front door, which he opened with his key and walked over to the area where his wife's infidelity was revealed a few days before in the spare bedroom. He took up a cordless drill from a hardware store and walked into the master bedroom in less than a minute. He'd fitted a hasp on the inside. He hung a lock on the door and put a tiny piece of wood between the door edge and the jamb to prevent the. He brought the drill to the guest bedroom to prevent the door from closing in case his wife wanted to close it. His heart was racing. He picked up the video camera, put the brass knuckles on his right hand, and waited. So many things could have gone wrong. Could Anna have forgotten to do something? She could have unlocked the gate earlier and waited in the bedroom for her boyfriend. He could have arrived early and gotten caught up in his preparations. But none of that occurred. He did some breathing exercises and waited for the ultimate assault, which he planned and conducted on his own terms. Mark was standing in the guest bedroom, peeking through the slightly open door. He was holding the video camera with his right hand. The camera quality would not be good in this dark hallway, but he was confident that the audio would be fine because he heard the sliding glass. Anna was giggling, and a masculine voice growled. He could imagine the enormous man with his hands all. As they passed the guest bedroom, Mark noticed that his wife's bikini top was already gone, so they moved. In the master bedroom, kissing and fondling without attempting to close the door, Mark followed them down the hallway. Still filming at the door, he knelt and looked in. Michael had his wife in a naked hug. Anna had her, and Mark closed his eyes. He slowly unbuttoned the buttons on his shirt and placed the video camera on the dresser, just inside the door. He could see on the screen that it was looking straight at the bed and the couple that was now tumbling into it. The hardest part would be getting the actual act filmed. There'd be no way to refute it, and he was desperate to release his wrath. He scooted back out the door and stood so that his legs would be ready for the challenge he attempted. Restrict the number. He peeked at them a few times, trying not to alert them to his presence. The pair rubbed and caressed. They were not in a hurry, because they had the entire afternoon to pollute his marriage. Passion will soon take over. Mark heard them talking as he stood outside the door. Anna called him Michael and confirmed his assumption she had troubles with Michael. I can't wait to drill you, baby. It seems like a year, yet it's only been a week. Michael voiced me too. Mark peered again and saw the bastard on his knees between and spread legs lining up. Then he saw him drop and heard his. She screamed in a way he'd never heard before. They began moving together, shouting curses and incoherent sounds. Seeing enough, he touched the brass knuckles again for luck and proceeded gently to the bed. Anna caught his movement just before he shoved the larger man in the ribs as hard as he could, throwing him out of her and onto his side. Get your hands off my wife, he yelled. Michael's stunned expression took in the scenario. It was her spouse. Obviously not a very big guy. He immediately reverted to type, and his type was bully. He began to move away from the other. Mark stepped back a few paces as Michael approached the far corner, determined to deal with this irritant of the bed, and headed his way. Michael misunderstood this action for a retreat. Anna was now up on her knees holding the sheets. Screaming, she yelled, "Get the hell out of here and don't hurt him." Mark rocked back on his following foot and ran, and launched himself into Michael's chest, bringing his brass knuckles as hard as he could into the solar plexus. They crashed onto the floor, with Mark's full weight collapsing the bastard's chest. Considerations become moot. Michael pushed, trying to get Mark off his chest. He produced a high-pitched. Mark sat up, straddling his opponent, making a moaning noise and struggling to breathe. Panic was in his eyes. Michael's hands pressed on the floor, trying to get in a better position to take in air, then delivered the kuda, bringing his right hand high above his head and bringing the steel on his fist directly down on the center of Michael's Terry face with such force that there was nowhere for the man's head to recoil and soften the blow. He heard bones give a satisfying crunch, and I watched blood start to pour out of his ruined face. Breathe and breathe out was harder than ever now that blood was streaming into his mouth and throat. He was completely incapacitated. Mark stood up and moved towards the door, content with this initial phase. He had been ignoring Anna's shouting, but suddenly he heard her voice. What the hell are you doing? Are you crazy? Get back here and help him. realized that she thought he was leaving and fleeing away as planned. A little psychological warfare. He kicked the small piece of wood away from the jamb and closed the door, locking it. Hasp in place and turned to face his wife. Her countenance transformed from fury to panic as she realized they were locked together. She was naked and helpless in the hands of her husband, who had taken on a new and terrifying persona. Her tone turned quickly. "Oh, Mark, I know it seems horrible, but he forced me into this. He's a bully," he threatened. "To hurt me, and you too," he said. "He would murder you to have me. I had to do what I didn't want." He had been slowly approaching the bed as she spouted her lies. No look on his face. "Shut up, you lying. I know you've been screwing him for months." Mark returned his focus to the victim on the floor, who was still gasping for air and turning a little blue. Mark wanted him injured, not dead. He lifted his leg so that he was positioned C. Loose to the iron bedstead, he put him on his side so the blood could drain. Reaching into his top dresser drawer, he brought out 5 pairs of handcuffs. He used handcuffs to secure Michael's ankles and wrists to the bedstead before returning to his prone wife and pulling her legs off the bed. He dragged her arms down and tied them behind her back. He rose up and promptly marched her into the bathroom and put her on the toilet. "Mark, please don't injure me again." Mark stroked the brass knuckles as he spoke, ensuring she saw them on his. "First, I want to know how you met him, why you slept with him, and why you thought it was appropriate. I also want to know was it okay for you to screw me over? I also want to know about all the other people you've been screwing for the last 15 years. We've got all afternoon given as how you won't be spending it screwing the bastard. After all, Anna made a calculated decision. It's evident that he knew certain things about her doings. How much did he know were their areas could she fudge to make her adulterous relationship sound less treacherous? Did she dare to lie to him? She chose. I had to test the waters and proceed cautiously, Mark. I never wanted this to happen because he's such a huge guy and so pushy. Came on to me at a party, and he enticed me upstairs at the Jackson. I had no idea he was going to screw me, but there was. Lisa noticed that there was no one nearby to help me, and she can tell you that he had me cornered." "What party was that?" I asked Mark, looking for more lies. Anna figured it must. Lisa had only witnessed the New Year's party. Liar. It was Halloween, and you had slept with him 20 times or more by New Year's. Who told? She whimpered. "You'd be shocked how many people. Maybe it was one of them. But that doesn't matter since I know something regarding Lisa that might truly ruin her marriage. I'll use it if I have to." "You're talking about her new lover, Rod. We all know about him. We made him up for your advantage." I truly came. Lisa taped the entire conversation, and it was copied onto a number of DVDs, ready to send them out when I feel like it. "Let's see. There's your dad, mom, and brother." "You despise." Anna cringed. "And it wasn't Lisa who told me what was initially." "Lisa didn't provide me any details. She felt New Year's was your first and last time with him, and you shared your complete history of promiscuity on that tape. As for who tipped me off, well, honey, do you remember a phone? When you called Mark on Saturday in our entryway, you mentioned how much you appreciate his huge old tool." "That's right, Mark. You tipped me off. You told me everything I know about your business, and I don't think I need any more information. I pretty much know everything I can stand to, and you've just demonstrated you can't tell the truth anyhow. If you have anything else to say, you can tell my lawyer. You'll be served papers in a few days to dispose of the two of you. I'll need to talk with an attorney regarding the cell phone Mark ripped from in his pocket. He picked up the phone and dialed a number. "Rebecca, you want to come in now and collect the garbage?" Listened and grinned before closing the phone and grabbing Anna by the shoulders again. He marched her back into the bedroom and showed her beloved nude, shackled, wheezing, and she was covered in blood and almost vomited. He then put her on the bed and turned off the video camera. He unlocked the bedroom door and opened in. Rebecca had been waiting outside in her car for several minutes, waiting for the call. She walked into the room nearly immediately. "I saved you some. His face isn't much to look at right now, but here's his latest and soon-to-be." Rebecca approached Anna, who was sitting on the bed, and smacked her hard across. "Woman, I would have traded you straight over for your man and everything you possessed. To do as asked. From all I know of him, he's just about flawless, especially compared to that rubbish on the floor. You made a bad move. What are we going to do with him now? Rebecca, I suppose I'll chuck this one out the door without clothing on and see how long it takes her to locate another buddy. So I'm delighted you. I have a pretty sharp new hunting knife, so we could cut off his tool and give it to Anna. I love his enormous old tool. You may store his balls in the vault, so that the women of this town will be safe. I'm going to use my prenup to put his balls in a ring, and if I find him cheating, he won't receive anything. We'll take him to the hospital and tell them what happened. I found him in the garage beside a huge metal box. Had fallen and hit him in the face. He won't contest the tale since he knows I can shut him off without saying anything. If he cooperates, he might offer him a few crumbs, but that leaves your wife to deal with what you propose, it appears. Like the world she really cares about is her dad, who's her alpha male. I'm wondering if there was more to the narrative when she was growing up, but I don't have any proof. If this divorce gets contentious, her father is likely to disinherit her, just as he did her sister. He's willing to face the humiliation to his reputation. Her reputation will suffer, and she'll lose a beautiful, significant wealth and wreck her life. Even after the divorce, he'll still have a few fascinating videos too. If I feel like sharing, maybe it would help her move on from her anger, so I'm going to let her get dressed and take her car and go find somewhere to sit and have a cry for a time. But Anna, don't try the right now or credit cards. They won't work for you. You undoubtedly have a few bucks in your purse. Here's another quarter for Mark. Stayed friends with Rebecca, but primarily they call each other when they're feeling low, but neither wants to rush into another relationship. They've been burnt so terribly that one thing that REA pained Mark in the entire affair was his brutal treatment of Anna. That wasn't the genuine Mark. He'd struck her twice, and he likened it to battle where a decent man, capable of actual cruelty. He promised he would never be in that situation again. Nonetheless, he never gave a second thought. Rebecca's insurance covered for minimal repairs to Michael's face, but she did not spring for significant. He underwent reconstructive surgery after she let him go with a bit more money than the prenup required. It was really painful. Over the next few months, as his despair worsened, he disappeared out of sight of Anna. She accepted the reasonable settlement offer, begged her sister for assistance, and moved in with her. She is still trying to find out how she could have estimated so incorrectly. She gets chills whenever she sees nature shows about. She cringes when she hears the terms alpha dog or pecking order, and she sometimes has dreams about them. What occurred that night between Michael and Mark? Sometimes she misses Mark, but he doesn't miss her at all. Thank you for watching. What are your thoughts on how this tale unfolded? Would you have handled the issue differently? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more compelling stories like this one. See you in the future video.